Welcome. This is Map Marketing and I am your host, Rachel Klaver. I love helping small business owners become more confident and more capable with their marketing. So this podcast is all here to help you do just that. It's me and the help of some great guests helping you learn new skills, new strategies and ideas. Let's jump in and get started. When Thunderpants started almost 27 years ago, selling comfortable underwear first in Nelson and then nationally and later internationally, it was like most other clothing companies. There was a women's range and then later a men's range. Sisters Sophie and Josie have seen many changes in what people have bought and who's buying. While hipster briefs were the most popular for years, now ultra-waisted, high-waisted pairs vastly outsell them. Their fabrics are designed and printed here in New Zealand and they feel distinctly Kiwi. But they're also sold in the UK and the USA, so others obviously also love their designs. A lot can change in 27 years, including how we as a society see gender and bodies. After Sophie and Josie both experienced connecting with people close to them who were either non-binary or trans and started to understand that for men's and women's ranges, it could create barriers to a whole group of their customers, they made a huge yet simple change. Depending on your anatomy, you can now either order a design as a flat-fronted or pouch front style. While there's been a small amount of negative feedback, the response from their customer base has been largely positive. Their marketing campaigns have always shown their products on a diverse range of body sizes, and now the sisters plan to take this further to help give more non-binary and trans representation in their models. The idea that we as a small business can make a positive change for communities that often feel sidelined is a really powerful one. Sophie and Josie didn't just do it as a marketing gimmick, but as a strong desire to make their products more accessible. In this podcast today in Map It Marketing, we are going to talk to both Sophie and Josie about how Thunderpants started, how they work together as sisters, and how they use their values to make significant business decisions, including exporting, design, marketing, and degendering their website. Even if you don't see the point of degendering on a website, this episode will help you hear the processes that this duo went through and why they don't regret it for a moment. This was a really special podcast for me, and I have to admit that I kind of teared up in the end because I was just so thankful that Sophie and Josie both talked to me. They aren't definitely haven't done this for the marketing side of it. They're just really good people with a great business, and I just adored and felt so lucky that I got to talk to them and that you get to listen to that conversation. So here we go. Hi and welcome to this episode of Map It Marketing, and I'm really excited today because I am talking to the sisters that own Thunderpants. Their names are Sophie and Josie, and we're going to get to talk to them in just a minute. But before that, I just want to say to you, thank you so much for tuning in every week. Those of you that are new to the show, please do check out some of our other podcasts. We mainly talk to small businesses in New Zealand and Australia with a few other experts, and sometimes it's just me. And if you have questions coming out of this podcast or you want to feel connected to a community of other small business owners, you can come and be part of our Facebook group, Map It Marketing, where we discuss lots of stuff around marketing and you can ask any questions you like. All right, so with no further ado, I'd love to welcome to the show Sophie and Josie. Now, I will just say that I have been a customer. I'm making a bit of a habit at the moment of having people on my show where I've been a customer. And I promise everyone that I haven't got this insidious plan of just telling you all my favorite preferences of things in life. But I've always loved also the way that Thunderpants have marketed themselves. And what caught my eye, particularly this time, was, I'm not too sure which one of you guys it was, Sophie or Josie, but you did a post because someone had complained about some inclusionary kind of advertising or marketing you'd done. Which one of you was that?
That was me. I deal with the marketing mostly.
Sophie.
Yeah.
And that really, I really loved it because I feel that a lot of brands, in fact, I just shared a post, I probably shouldn't say it's from, it's Mitre 10, and they're doing like a woman's night, and they've got this woman filing her toenails with a, like a power tool with no pants on for a woman's event. So it's like, and I'm ranting about it. I've already ranted about it publicly already, but by the time this comes out. But I do think like there's like these old practices that are still going into marketing, and that's on that right, like all over on that side. And then there's brands like you that are coming right across and actually understanding that you know, we're not just in this narrow viewpoint of what sexuality, gender, all those things are, and catering for those different needs is so important.
Just to clarify, I didn't post it on Thunderpants. I posted it on my personal.
You did.
And then a lot of people, I'm in a lot of groups, and there was a lot of groups know who I am. So they shared the name.
Yes.
So I wouldn't post it on.
No, I realize,
And there were no names.
And I love that you weren't giving any names, but I do think that it's something that a lot of brands that are inclusive are starting to really have to fight against, is those issues. And I felt you dealt with it in such a beautiful and clear way too. Like, it wasn't angry, it was just a lovely, gentle way that you dealt with it. So without any further ado, welcome to the show, Sophie and Josie.
Hi.
And do you want to tell me a little bit about how Thunderpants started? And for those who've never heard of it, what is Thunderpants?
Okay. Well, Thunderpants, our tagline always was Thunderpants go, they won't go up your bum. And they're comfy. It started out just as comfy undies, mainly for women, because born out of a dissatisfaction of the undies on the market, because I went back to Polytech as a mature student and bought a pair of undies and put my finger straight through the elastic bit, and then realizing that that was another $15 down the tubes. So I thought, I can do a better job of this. And I started Thunderpants with a flatmate while I was at Polytech, and then in 1995, so that's 27 years ago.
It would have been quite a groundbreaking thing, because back then too, like, I imagine there weren't a lot of people besides maybe Bend On who would still have been making it here, I think, then making lingerie in New Zealand. Or I'd count it as lingerie, even though it doesn't look lacy, but
and the whole sort of business around underwear 27 years ago was totally different than it is now. We were quite sort of leaders in that, a bit ahead of our time, in the sense that we were about comfort and durability, and just, you know, not being sort of normal sexy lingerie.
There was a lot more about women making pants for women that women wanted to wear, as opposed to something that was, you know, for the male gaze.
And I think what's really interesting about it too is, like, I was thinking actually that durability thing, I said I've had for maybe 7 years, and it's washed often, but it still looks really good. Like, it's lasts and it's thick. But I think one of the things, you know, I hear women often say, oh my gosh, I just put my husband's boxers on, or something, like the knit ones, and they're so comfortable. Why can't women's underwear feel like this? But yours has a similar cut to that. It's kind of got that high waist, or, you know, and those, I have to have the high-waisted ones because I've got a big tummy, high-waisted with, like, and they're good, they don't go up your bum, and they are comfortable, and it's quite a nice thing to experience a pair of underwear that just is comfortable plus looks bright and fun.
Yeah,
exactly. So I've always described them as the modern day cottontail. I don't like, I'm 61 now, and when I grew up, we had big undies called cottontails that were made by Bend On or someone, I think. Or some, I can't remember, Bonds or something, but these are like the modern day version, but with, you know, some spandex in it, so that they actually sort of stay put.
But we're also both from an arts background, so the art and design was important to make them sort of, you know, a small canvas, a very small canvas that we could put various different patterns and prints on.
I was going to ask that, because I did feel that you do design the fabrics. Is that right?
Yep. They're all exclusive.
Yeah. We used to actually design them ourselves. I started off, and then Soph did many of them, and now we use mainly Greta Menzies in Wellington. So it's been great. And back in the original, when we launched the product onto the market, Victoria, who started it with me, we had an exhibition of undies in Nelson, and that's how we started. That's how the press sort of got hold of that and syndicated it round, and
they were all hand printed with block prints.
Yeah,
those very first ones.
That's
beautiful. That's a beautiful thing, you know.
Well, even the whole thing about the whole sort of ethos of Thunderpants, where it goes right back to then, where everything was very equitable and everyone, you know, like Victoria and I would do those block prints, and she'd make one and I'd make one, and you know, and it was.
I think that's great, and you'd probably be like, oh no, if I place the block in just the wrong place on that one.
It's all very funny, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that story. And so obviously now do you get them printed here in New Zealand, or have you had to outsource that?
Auckland.
Oh, that's great. So it's still like a New Zealand made product.
Yes, it's Auckland Fabric Printers in Auckland, and we'd like you to tell everyone, so everybody
I think that's great that you're doing that.
Printers, so that they can do lots of printing for New Zealand.
I love that. And the product, I'm assuming, like one of the other things I found quite interesting about the product was I had a friend that was involved in roller derby, and I know that with roller derby, for example, there's this big subculture there that are really engaged, who also really love being strong, athletic women, and they love your product as a whole. Like they often will wear the pants as part of what they do. Do you find that?
We used to sponsor a roller.
We still do.
Oh, did you? There we go.
We still do. Like we've sponsored them in the sense that we've made uniforms for them quite a number of years ago. So whenever they need any, they just sort of get in touch with us, and we make them a few more. Plus, they repaid us in the sense that we did a photo shoot with them. So some of our best photographs that we've had over the years have come from the Richter City roller derby crew in Wellington. And they are staunch, fabulous, strong women.
And I think that's one of the things around the brand I do feel like it fits really well. Like I knew that you'd started in Nelson, and I was surprised when I found out you'd moved, which we talked about a bit before the podcast. But one of the things I do feel like it is a brand that just feels so quintessentially New Zealand. Like it feels like the styling and everything just feels so much like, as soon as I put them on, I was like, I feel like I should go for a tramp now. And I'm not a tramping type of person. And it wasn't even like they were like, you know, merino or anything, but it just made me feel like everything kind of felt like it had a place, felt comfortable. And it just felt, my body felt at ease, which was really nice.
And if you wanted to, you could go for a tramp.
Yeah.
I could have. Exactly. I could have.
And they would have stayed put.
And they would have stayed put. And I think that was one of the things that I really loved about them. And so in terms of the business, like I don't actually know much about where it's sitting in terms of where you are, but I'm assuming you have found export markets as well.
Well, export was really challenging because over the years we've added more and more environmental or ecological and ethical sort of practices. That's basically added more and more layers of cost onto the production. So we're trying as hard as we can to keep our footprint as low as possible, and it just didn't seem easy. There were two problems with exporting. One was sending it all over the world.
Yeah.
And it weighs a lot because it's not a skimpy pair of undies.
Yeah, it's quite solid, Like it's not like a tiny bit of silk or something.
Yeah, and the other thing is that when we send something all over the world, it's not made locally anymore. So we've gone for a different model where we have two other companies that are companies that make under license, one based in Portland, Oregon, and one based in Yorkshire in the UK. And they are Thunderpants UK and Thunderpants USA, and they market differently, separately, but they're all under the same umbrella, and we have the same look and feel, and we're all
three entities, Thunderpants entities, answer to a mother company, the Ministry of Pants, that Sophie and I own.
Sometimes we sit over in that chair over there, and we're Ministry of Pants.
I just love the name, the Ministry of Pants. I think that's really good. What I love about that is it is hard. Like I work with quite a lot, and I've interviewed quite a lot of sustainable brands. And what I really like is that you've gone, if we're going to really look at that sustainability and look at how we're doing things and making sure that we're caring about the environment and how we're working, how do we make that happen and grow our business internationally? So that's a really clever way of doing it. I can imagine it's still scary because you kind of lose touch a bit once it's going over there.
Well, we've been really lucky, but it is possible that you could lose touch. But the thing that really didn't sit right for us was because we want our pants to still be affordable, obviously not to people on a benefit or anything, but we want them to be as affordable as possible. for as many people as possible. And if we were going to export, we would have to be charging an awful lot of money, and we would have to remove some of our ethical concerns.
The bottom line is really we gave up wholesaling in New Zealand because it was not a profitable exercise. So how the heck would we do it?
That's so good, because I do often also talk to people who go, I'm wanting to export into Australia, but they haven't worked out that profitability here with retailing. And I do think that it's always good to get the test case right in your own country before you manage it out. And I was going to ask it because I did used to see your product in shops and I don't anymore. That is because you decided to go direct.
Yes, it's because we wanted to not raise our prices to accommodate a wholesale margin, so that and it
was at the same time that we were becoming a living wage accredited as well.
Oh yeah.
So we had to balance up. Do we pay our our supply chain more, or do we let other businesses take a bigger cut than them?
I mean, we had our own store, Thrive in Martinborough, and our clothing label Thrive, and things that we sort of done all this with all that beforehand, which didn't have it wasn't using organic fabrics and things, but it was just the slow growth kind of situation again, and made in New Zealand. But we'd already gone through that process of ditching all that because we could see it wasn't really working. Well, it was, but it wasn't, so much work for so little.
And also it was a fashion label, so inherently it became less and less important to us to make new clothes every season.
Because one of the benefits of your brand is, while there might be a few changes in the style or the cut, often when you've perfected that cut, it's really just coming through with those new designs, isn't it, every now and again?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that production cost in terms of like design isn't having to be there because the design is a classic design.
That's right. So basically, once you've done that design, the only tweaks that'll come from then is if you're adding sizes or if you change a fabrication or something, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because it would change the weight.
Standard line, that would really happen. We might take our original Thunderpants, adults flat-fronted Thunderpants, and try them in a bamboo or try them in a merino or something, and that might require a little bit of design adjustment, but generally speaking, not.
And with this size, so you mentioned it before, you started with women's. What made you go into, you do kids as well, I remember, is that right? So and you also do
children,
unisex or children. Oh, you had children. Oh, yeah, that's so good.
We got partners and then had children, so therein lies, everybody wanted Thunderpants. So.
That's actually a very practical reason to do it, I reckon.
You'll notice that now our children are large, we don't do babies anymore.
Well, babies are pretty complicated actually in terms of sizing, isn't it? So
well, it was niche, and we weren't really niche. So we make undies that fit for a 2 to 4, but if you want them for a baby, you can use them as an overnap.
That's clever.
When they're babies, but babies don't wear undies.
No, they don't really, do they? Otherwise,
they're not a huge market for us.
And a lot of your designs are unisex, aren't they? Like it doesn't matter.
Not specifically. We've now become gender neutral. So things that used to be called men's and women's are now called flat-fronted or pouch-fronted, and so we're talking more about anatomy rather than
I really
gender.
like that.
So they're gender neutral in terms of, because we don't discuss gender, but everybody knows what they have and what they need to fit in their pants.
And the color ranges,
because thinking that way rather than
and then
assuming gender,
and you don't assume gender in the color sense either. So the pouch fronted maybe in pinks or purples or whatever, and the most popular flat fronted is still black.
I can imagine. Well, actually, I have a daughter I wear a lot of bright colors, and my daughter who's 19 only wears black. She just only wears, but I think she's reacting against my color. Like she said it's because it means she doesn't have to think in the morning, because she just puts the same black clothes on every day.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, when we had when our girls were little, very little, and just before school and going to daycare and things like that, they were both like, they're a year apart, and they were both like wanted to try all the other undies with the unicorns on them and the days of the week and all the rest of it.
Oh yeah, they would have been jealous.
Yeah,
I was jealous of that stuff too, because my mother was a staunch feminist, so we had particular things that we were allowed to wear, never allowed to have Barbies, that sort of stuff. So I was just like actively hunting out all the pretty floral pussy stuff.
So we both did this thing where we didn't know that we were doing it, but we each took our daughters to the warehouse and said, there you go, there's the undies, knock yourself out, choose a pair.
Yeah.
So my kid chose, I'm not sure, they were really pink with princesses on them, and they were
yes, of course,
and horrible.
Yeah.
Went home, put them on, was so excited, put them on, and I could see straight away from the look on her face that they weren't comfortable, but she was still pretending they were, because one of the, and then was there for about 2 minutes and then disappeared from a room off to a room, and I never saw those pants ever again.
How interesting.
I don't know what happened to them.
Much the same in my house.
Yeah, well, I think once you've had comfort, you realize it feels good, you realize you don't have to have that discomfort. You don't often notice it until you experience it. Very good planning, much better than planning it.
But right from the get-go with Thunderpants, it was all about comfort, durability, fun, being New Zealand made, not really giving a sort of toss about what other people thought about things. Just let's get on with it and be a bit practical about all this.
So one of the things around making it gender neutral, has that also taken into play of having all the colorways across both options?
Well, we sort of tried to do that as much as possible all the time, but basically we sell product based on its popularity.
You have to. So that's the conventionality.
So if the pouch-fronted folk are buying pink, we'll be making pink. So we'll just make certain things. If we don't have enough fabric to make something that's a bit of a hit and miss number.
Hit and miss number. Yeah, we might not make it in all styles. We don't make everything in all styles all the time, but we do try to think of popularity rather than anything remotely gender related.
Yeah, which makes sense, obviously. Like if you can see a trend of a particular, like if you had pink dinosaurs, for example, or something like that, which would be unlikely for like if you had something like that. Yeah,
they'd be popular in everything, I'm sure.
They'd be popular in everything.
Not that we're ever going to make them customers.
I think one of the things I find really interesting from it too, like just looking at, because my kids are Generation Z, and just looking at how gender roles have changed in terms of what people buy and what people think is acceptable has really altered. And I think that, my generation, I've really learned a lot. I've had a couple of my kids' friends are trans, and so that was a really interesting experience for me to kind of come against that and realize, well, I had no issue with it, but actually changing the way I was thinking, because it was more not having a barrier toward it, but more opening myself up to understanding that whole process and thought process. But I really see with that generation, they're sort of like 22 down in particular, there is no color norms.
No, there isn't.
Because I was raised with color norms, even though my mum was, pretty cutting edge back then. It's been really interesting to see that color norm is disappearing.
Yeah, it's interesting because
along with a lot of other norms.
Yeah, a lot of norms have disappeared, which is great. Because we should all be really free to be who we are, and I love that. And I don't think a lot of marketing naturally in many brands hasn't caught up to that.
Totally. I mean, my kid is actually non-binary. And was when they were little, I was always big on black clothes, so I used to put them in black clothes. There was a lot of black clothes, and as a sort of a rebellion, Billy used to get really fluoro, disgusting, fluffy pink things, and I just was so disappointed. Then
I totally get this. No, I do.
Put all these things on, and I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I come home with a t-shirt that has sort of like some sort of gargoyle and black on it, just to sort of try and balance it out.
It is an interesting thing as a parent, because I really want my children to be all they are, but I do know that I have had to do some work inside me around, and for different reasons. I've got 2 neurodivergent kids. I'm neurodivergent too, so what could I expect? But I had to kind of grieve a little bit around that stuff, but realizing that grieving wasn't me judging them, it was more my world concept
exactly
of what I thought my child would be. I love the child I have, but just I had to reframe myself a bit and have to do a bit of work on myself.
Well, I feel also it was a bit like that for us with the changing the gender language on the website. So it's like the world was changing around us, but you get kind of a little bit, you think you're very liberal minded and all the rest of it, and then you're stuck with pronouns, and it really grates your grammatic issues. And when we were first asked by a couple of customers, I think.
We were asked first of all by Lucy, the
UK arm of Thunderpants.
Oh, really? That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So they've been asked, and they're very small, but it must have been something that was bigger earlier. I mean, it's a bigger country, let's face it.
Yeah. And our immediate reaction, without really thinking about it, was that sounds very hard, How do we do that with clothing? How do we also, because of our customer basis has been very diverse, like from sort of quite conservative farming and very
like the people that wrote that letter.
Yeah.
There's a very conservative arm to Thunderpants alongside the very non-conservative arm of Thunderpants customers. And so it was, you were all constantly weighing up that thing, but in the end, Thunderpants, we've always been or tried to be as true to ourselves as possible, over and above all the other sort of stuff that goes with running a business. And
I just immediately now, whenever I think about it, think of Billy, who's my kid, and I think, okay, what would they think if they were coming onto this website?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I didn't really think about how uninclusive so many brands were until I started having these personal experiences with people who were either non-binary or trans, and realizing that those things were this weighted expectation around how they were meant to be or not to be. Some of them quite young, 6, 7, 8-year-olds who were already identifying as non-binary, and realizing that as a marketer, I have a responsibility to help other brands see if they can find a way through it. Like I'll often say to people, hey, you shouldn't really have a girls section and a boys section on your website, and they're like, but people like the girls or the boys section. I'm like, yeah, but it's only got pink stuff in the girls one and blue stuff in the boys, and and people will complain about it. And I think, but it's not just a complaint, it's actually about making a safe place for people who want to have things that are not potentially,
and allowing people to be themselves and feel included. And
I mean, and all the kids that I know, boys and girls, they all love tights, but it's a really, really recent thing that tights are included just in kids wear as opposed to girls wear.
And men and boys do love tights. They're comfortable.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
That's why they stick them under their jeans and wear leggings underneath their jeans, because they're like, these are super comfortable, but I do think that it is an interesting thing. I lived in Taiwan for a while, and one of the things I noticed immediately when I went there is all the boys wear pink, because it's a Western and European construct that women wear pink and men wear blue. And in fact, I don't know if you guys know this, but it actually comes from a thing with the gypsies or fairies, not gypsies, but like in folklore, gypsies or fairies. I think it was fairies. I'm not getting in trouble with gypsies. I'm sorry, all gypsies. So fairies, will I cut that bit out? No, I'll be okay. So fairies, they believed that if you dressed your child in pink, the fairies would steal it. But if they were blue, they'd safe. So they dressed their girls in pink because the girls were disposable.
Oh, goodness.
And after that, I was like, I'm wearing blue.
Gosh.
No, I've never heard that before. But
that's horrible.
That's awful.
I know. I was like, oh, okay, so you're doing it in case they take the boy. We're just going to put the girl in the pink. So I think it is a really interesting thing. Like, it's so weird how we put these things around, flat or pouch or colors, and it becomes a big thing. And I love that you've chosen a way to do it so that people can feel safe coming on there without having to have that whole thing of, I've got to go and shop in the girls section, or I've got to go and shop in the boys section. Well, they can just choose the ones that fit them best.
As soon as Soph changed, very early on in this decision, Soph changed the wording on women's and to adult. And within a sort of nanosecond, there was a tweet from somebody who was just absolutely delighted to have, look, it's just really easy to change one word and I feel heard,
So weird, isn't it? Like, it's such a big thing for us to have to process. But when you hear that, it makes you go, that's worth it. And it's worth it more than having the rough letter in lots of ways, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, the rough letter.
I think that we get a lot of letters with all those bits and pieces in there, but that one just sort of really encapsulated all the things, and the way she doubled down and added in all of the things, all of
we started with the overweight and the gender stuff and the
tattoos are ugly and just ugly. I think she said at one stage.
Yeah, it's an interesting
and
thing,
dangerous, like morally dangerous for her children.
Yeah,
and it's an interesting thing, because I think there is a lot of fear around changing or things, but then it's kind of, what is the normal that you feel you're living in? I find, like, for me, like, let's just talk about the weight thing, because that's been a thing for me. I've recently lost quite a bit of weight and I'm still losing some, and one of the things I liked about your product, and I said that before, I think I got the biggest size possible that I could get from you, like when I bought them. And having those, it made me feel really good. It made me feel really confident. And as I said, I merely wanted to be more active. So how is providing something that makes someone feel good and makes them feel more in touch with their body and where they are in this space a bad thing?
It isn't a bad thing. That is correct.
It's such a weird thing. And that's the same with gender stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't know why, quite simply don't know why anybody would be interested in what anybody else has got going on in their pants. It just makes no sense to me.
That's a really good way of seeing it. I think I'm going to use that quote as an out quote for the podcast. But it's true, isn't it? Like, actually, all you're doing is providing these, and people can choose to come and buy them or not. But actually, does it really matter if you've bought them because they say that they've got a flat front, as opposed to that they are definitely women's pants?
No, it makes no difference at all. You just know it's going to fit whatever's going on in your pants.
And do you feel like, so in terms of your community, do you feel like you have been supported in the main, besides that tweet? Do you feel like it was
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And how, like, in terms of that, do you use that idea of inclusion in your advertising as well and in your marketing, or is it more just that it's on the website?
No, we're using it in the marketing now, and the last photo shoot we had, all of the models, although we didn't really go on about it because it was nobody's business, but they were all non-binary.
So they got to choose what they were sent to the website, have a look around, see what you want to wear in the shoot, and then they sent down sizes and styles of things that they wanted to wear. So they chose what they wanted to wear. So that when we get to the nasty letter was all about the offence around somebody
who they perceived as a man wearing a crop top.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it was all around. So
man, they should have been living with me in Sydney in the 80s. They would have been used to it.
I know. They have 2 children, and I'm secretly hoping both of their children head off to a dance party and wear hot shorts and nipple
hot pants. Yeah, one of my best friends in Sydney used to have gold lamy hot pants. So I mean, I do think it's quite an interesting thing around having the inclusion space in your advertising without having to proclaim it too. Like, I think that's I think one of the things I really like about that is it's just like, this is who we are, as opposed to, look, we're doing this thing, which some businesses can get caught up in, but not so much smaller business, but like corporates can often get caught up in this kind of virtual signaling, which this is not. This is just you guys sticking to your ethics and you're feeling what you do. Yeah.
Sometimes we get a bit annoyed that nobody notices us.
Yeah, that's fair enough, because, well, hey, I noticed.
Because then you do get those big names out there. I can't remember if it's Bonds or somebody now.
Well, Snag is a good example, because Snag uses inclusion in a lot of their things. Yeah. And that's what I was actually thinking, because they did that. I was wondering if they're from the UK or Scotland. I wonder if there was more of a push in the UK, because they've also had that inclusion side in there too. But I do think that there is this real, almost a revolt now of people going, hey, let's bring people in instead of pushing people out. So I do think following that and doing that within your own capacity is a really powerful thing to do.
So yeah, and the inclusion, we're just going to take, as far as advertising, we're just going to take sort of one area each time, and like our next photo shoot, we want it to focus on age, to have more age inclusivity. So take a look and make a look at a sort of a intergenerational family shoot or something like that, where you have but family in the wider sense, because they possibly won't be related.
but that generational thing.
Yeah.
Because that is the thing. Like, I'm thinking my 78-year-old mum would love them as equally as I would, and then my kids.
So many times we've been told that people have been buried in their Thunderpants because they were their favorite pairs.
That's quite gorgeous.
It's wonderful.
It's kind of a weird thing. You probably couldn't put that in your so good you'll be buried in them.
Yeah, no, not really a line for marketing. No,
I could like marketing. It's interesting too, because I think one of the things that you're doing is something that can be quite a hard thing when you're a designer, if you have got a concept of this is what a body needs to look like, and that you're embracing that the bodies are going to all look very different in your product.
Yeah.
Well, I just see Thunderpants as a very practical piece of clothing that fits people. And it's comfortable.
Sort of almost like a necessary piece of equipment rather than a
like. Well, it is, isn't it? It's a base layer that's necessary.
And then like it's doubly good if it's got something silly on it or something nice to look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then when you put it on your clothesline, you've got a little sort of art exhibition going on.
And if you're having a blue day in the middle of winter, having something that's lovely bright is actually quite a nice thing to have, even if you're wearing black on top.
Yeah.
I
have a lot of people who like to match with their children.
Well, that's become very fashionable now, hasn't it?
I think I feel like it's sort of not even that it's matching, it's just that the kids feel like I've got the same as, they love their mum, so they want to wear the same pants as mum.
And one of the benefits for you is that because you've made it gender neutral, it's possible to do, because I know a lot of mums say, this is great, there's lots of stuff that's mother-daughter stuff, but what about mothers and boys? And so this is giving people that opportunity to be able to match no matter what the gender, which is great. Christmas, it's a good Christmas idea for everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone sets.
There's a lot of those at Christmas.
I can imagine. I actually I worked with a fashion designer years ago. So I will not be mentioning who they are, but we did an inclusive thing with them as a big campaign, and it was amazing. And we had people from different sizes and disabilities and things like that. Did this massive photo shoot. It was getting all this press and all this movement. And then she didn't like the end picture because she didn't think the clothes looked perfect on them because they had all these weird bodies. So she canned it. And I was quite upset about this because our whole thing had been about how everybody is beautiful and everybody is confidence and there's confidence and beauty. And so I really am drawn to businesses where they use a range of bodies. And it's an interesting thing, you mentioned about the obesity thing. This idea that somehow that seeing a non-binary male in a crop top might make someone suddenly be also non-binary or consider becoming a female. Or that seeing someone who's size 18, 20, 24 in feeling confident in a pair of underwear might suddenly make someone go and hit the donuts because they're like, cool, I just want to get to that level of confidence.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a weird thing for me.
It is. I just don't get why people are so worried what everybody else is doing. I just don't get it. I really.
Is it that they're really worried that maybe a close, intimate person's going to say to them, oh, hang on a minute, I think I saw that outfit you're wearing on a guy last week. I don't know why you're wearing it now. Like, is that what's going on?
I think it's a threat to normative society is what it is. It's all just very threatening to change the attitude towards things.
It's quite strange to us because we don't live in that world, and it's quite difficult to sort of. I find it really difficult to try and put myself in there and to imagine what is terrifying about it. Like just, you see people's responses to things, and it's just like the polar opposite of yours. Like you'll see something different, and we'll be going, "Look at that person, aren't they great?" They're like doing their thing, and then other people will be like,
And I think one is opening up and celebrating other people. There's a great line by a woman called Marianne Williamson, which is, we cannot celebrate in ourselves what we do not celebrate in others. And I always love that, because I always think when I'm a bit snitchy about something, I'm always thinking, hang on a bit, what's that saying about me? And what am I not celebrating in myself that I can't see the joy that person's experiencing at the time?
I'd say for personally, there is a shift, and there has been quite a quick shift over the last 5 years.
And I understand it's hard for older generations. Like, my parents have had to learn really fast about a whole lot of stuff, and they're amazing. And sometimes one of them will misgender one of our relatives and things like that by accident, and it's not. But I kind of go, you have to have grace for that, because the world has changed so fast.
Yeah. And I mean, even personally, we might be doing all this, but I get pronouns wrong all the time, and the whole thing. And that's not a big deal, really, if you're open.
It's about intention.
It's about intention and openness. And I think one of the things in the current climate that I find really confusing about everything is people like the person that wrote that nasty letter to us, and it's people like that go on about the divisive nature of our society these days. But they're the ones that are being divisive. It's like everyone else is being sort of inclusive, but then there's this whole conservative thing that just can't handle it.
Because it's scary, because it's not their life anymore.
It's a threat to normative society.
And always when there's always going to be pushes like this in society, and when we're including something that's new, and so first of all, the reaction from our side is to pull everyone in, and we're all in there, and it's all a little bit of a mishmash to begin with, but it's a hell of we've got some things to work out, because we haven't kind of figured out how we all get along together. But it's a lot better than you have to stay outside the fence.
I think so too. So with you moving, I love this, by the way, with you moving online, how has it impacted your business? Obviously, it's been better not having to lose margin to retail, but have you been able to continue to grow your audience through doing that?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, we didn't need to grow our audience. We just needed to not lose a certain amount.
Yes.
Because the margins were better.
Yes.
And so we needed to, so we gave ourselves a natural buffer by going online and keeping us, removing that smaller margin to sell from them. We gave ourselves time to step up to make the same amount. And we're there. We've been pretty much static or a little bit more for the last few years. And now we feel like we're in a growth phase again, but pandemic.
Yes.
So it's very slow. And we have increased our prices. Pandemic.
Everyone has had to, and I guess for you, even though things are made in New Zealand, there's still things that have to be imported into New Zealand for those things to be made in New Zealand.
Well, cotton, undies.
Cotton, yes. The supply chain is an issue, right?
Yeah.
We don't grow cotton in New Zealand.
No, and petrol. petrol prices, right?
Yeah.
So everything, even moving stuff around New Zealand is
expensive. I'm going to sound very bougie now, but I had salmon last night, and when I bought it and then I saw the price, I was like, and I said to the woman, was it always that expensive? And she said, it's the cost of it getting to us now has like tripled.
Yeah.
And it was just to the South Island.
Yeah. And they need to get their whatever they're feeding them.
Yeah, exactly. So everything's kind of,
everything's going up.
Yeah.
So it is. It's,
and are you finding that, like, because obviously a lot of the technology and things around marketing has changed, that we need to do lots more video and things like that. How are you guys managing that change in terms of your marketing? Are you feeling like it's something that you're loving or struggling with?
Well, Soph does most of the marketing.
Yeah. Well, we've just started working with social media people.
Cool.
So I do all the social media in terms of just what's on our feed, but we now do ads through a company, and so
because it makes it easier,
SEOs and all that sort of stuff. They do all of that because that's not something that
I know nothing about all this.
Well, I always think it's a really good idea, Josie, just to opt out of things. That's the benefit of having a family business.
Yeah,
I have that for accounts, admin, working out what time I'm meant to be at things.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's my husband. So I totally get this.
New product.
I'm the Sophie side. So I think that's a really lovely blend. So if people want to find your product, I will put links. We'll put links to all three. Are they all three different websites, the different ones around the world?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll put links in the show notes. But if they're wanting to get them, and do you ship to Australia?
Yeah. So the three companies are basically, we're Australasia and Pacific. US is
the Americas,
anywhere in the Americas, and then UK and EU. And anywhere that falls out of there, nobody specifically markets to. And to be honest, we don't really recommend you buy them because it's difficult to get them there at the moment, but they can go anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. So if they're wanting to find them for New Zealand, Australia, which is most of the listeners here, where would they come to find them from you?
New Zealand.
And the email is?
Just go to the website. Yeah.
Thunderpants.co.nz.
Absolutely perfect.
And all of our social handles are Thunderpants NZ.
Okay, perfect.
So that's Instagram, Facebook, and strangely Twitter.
Oh, I know. I've just got into starting using Twitter again. I used to be New Zealand's most frequent tweeter, and then I took 2 weeks off and no one noticed I was gone. So I threw a 9-year paddy and just came back on again this year. You always like to be center of attention until you realize that no one actually gives a shit.
Twitter's funny.
It's been a real pleasure having both of you on today, Sophie and Josie. And I really, I'm really excited because I'm going to write about this and stuff as well. I'm really excited to talk about that importance around inclusion, and we'll focus on the positive stuff. We probably won't even mention the letter in there, but I'm really glad we talked about it in the podcast. But thank you so much for being part of today.
Great.
Nice. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
For probably about 6 or 7 years, I've been mentioning to clients that have quite a gendered website, the problems around that. And I've got to be honest that when I first started doing that, I was pretty much just towing the party politically correct line and not really understanding why it was so important. But I do think that it is really important for us as business owners to consider how our messaging on our website can be sidelining people. Now, you might choose that as a business coach, for example, you only want to work with women, or that you only want to work with a particular group of people, and so you purposely create a message that does that. But if you're talking to all parents of all children, or all parents, or all this particular group across genders, then perhaps we do need to consider what our language is like and how we might be unconsciously showing a bias that we may not want to give. So maybe this week, take a look at your marketing. Are you unconsciously creating a bias? If it's one that you've put there on purpose because you have a specific target market, that's all well and good. But if you have a bias and it's showing, maybe it's time to do something about it. I loved talking to Sophie and Josie. I felt so privileged, and I hope you enjoyed this session. I know that this is something that can be quite inflammatory for some people, not for me, but it could be for you too. And if you'd like to give some feedback and you want to talk about this topic, do come along and be part of the Map It Marketing Facebook group and ask questions in there. The link is in the show notes, or you can do a bit of a search for it on Facebook, and we can have a chat about what it's like to potentially degender your marketing. Have a great week. If you love what you heard today, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you loved this episode in particular, I'd love it if you shared it on social media. Remember to tag me in so I can say thank you. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.